Good evening. Welcome to the Bennington Tonite Show. My name's Mike Bethel, and my co-host of our show is Annette Smith. We've got some guests tonight to talk about entrepreneurism in Vermont, and I'm going to turn it over to Annette, and she's going to introduce our guests.
Thank you, Mike. I'm pleased to be here with you tonight. And our guests are from Rutland County and Bennington County, and we have Jose Galvez Contreras, who's from Poultney, and Steve Burzon, who has Garden Arts Company, which is based in Manchester and is a landscaping business and fresh market, and Jim Sullivan, who's the director of the Bennington County Regional Commission. And we're going to talk tonight about entrepreneurialism and community development, sort of a different way, or how to revitalize and create local businesses and local entrepreneurialism. So we're going to start with Jose, who has been involved in the Poultney 2020 project. And you can tell us a little bit about what that's about. This is going on in a number of communities around Vermont. And so why don't you tell us something about that?
Yes, so thank you so much for the opportunity for having me here in your show today. So I work at Green Mountain College as the Community Outreach Coordinator, and we started this process of Poultney 2020 about 9 months ago. And what was happening was that the students at the college wanted to see themselves being more involved in the town. So the idea of trying to, working together or partnering in ways that the college and the town can figure out ways on how to make the community more vibrant came up, and that's where the idea of Poultney 2020 emerged. And then we found out that there was going on Manchester 2020 and so forth around the state. So this was started in October. About October, we had initial meetings. We met with different organizations around the town, with the Downtown Revitalization Committee, which was an already established organization in town, and members from the college. And we decided, what is it that we want to see happening in the town? So we were trying to, grab people to come into and tell us about what ideas they wanted to see going on. And then the idea of a conference came up. So we started planning towards a conference that was going to be done in April 24th. And the motive behind the conference was that people were going to come up with ideas, and they had to identify what projects they wanted to see happening in the town. So we did it around 5 focus groups, which was the arts, which is important for our community, and especially in revitalization efforts. We did sustainability, which is something that is very close to the college and the area where we live. The college is known for its environmental mission. Foods, which is very unique of Vermont. We're very connected to our food. We now understand about sustainable agriculture and just the different farms in the area, as well as goods and services, which represents the whole scheme of local businesses and everything that that where people can get fulfill those needs, which is Poultney needs a really amazing spot for this area. And there was one more focus group, so we had arts, food, goods and services, arts,
recreation,
and history, and place. And place was going to encompass history, recreation, and just highlighting the natural beauty of Poultney. So the focus groups, took, the lead, and these are all town people, along with college students, faculty, and staff. So we're all coming together. We had several meetings. I counted that I attended about 36 meetings total leading to the conference. And in these meetings, we had discussions. Each focus group was charged to do 2 things. During one of the first meetings was that they had to identify what makes Poultney a unique town. So what makes Poultney special? What is it that we already have in our town that we want to highlight more, or we want to make sure that we become more aware and understand that. So Poultney, one of the things that we've identified in the process is that you actually don't need to leave Poultney if you want to fulfill your needs. You have a bank, you have a local grocery store, you have a local co-op, you have different farms around the area, you have a pharmacy, you have a doctor, you have a college, you have a high school, you have an elementary school, you have recreation places. So everything that you need is at hand in Poultney. So that was something that came up. The second part that the focus group needed to do was seeing what else is it that we need. So we came up with about 20 to 21 ideas that led to the conference, and during the conference we had about 185 people coming in from the different members from the town, the college, and people from outside as well who were interested in the process. And in this process, we voted on the top 4 ideas. And after April 24th, we've continued with the process. We've had several meetings, and now we are in the, the developing, trying to develop a mission for each of the 4 areas that got voted on. And now we're trying to carry on with the projects. The 4 projects that got voted on were, the first one was on Main Street Park, because we thought that there was a need, for parents and just to bring a central spot that could bring people together to the downtown. Locaville restaurant, because food is very important, a place where, anybody in the town can come in and would be able to have a sit-in with their family after a soccer game, after a football game, at the high school, as well as from the college, when parents come and visit students. We wanted to have a parks and trails because, as I said, Pulteney has different recreation spots, from the mountains that go around the Herrick Mountain ridgeline to the Dean's Preserve to the Lake St. Catherine, park. And so we want to create a parks and trails system that we can all understand that Pulteney could be actually a walking town. And the last one was a community center, which was centered around the arts, which we have these old buildings that could be, brought back to life, and that's what we're trying to do right now. So make it a community space where you can teach, yoga classes, where you can bring high school students and teach them the high school, the college, and the elementary school students, and teach them about, cooking classes, or just host their art and just bringing them some empowerment to the community. And we are pretty aware of, the demographics, but it's also trying to connect all this youth that exist around the town. We have high school, we have a college, and we have elementary school. So that is basically a summary of Pulteney 2020.
And it's ongoing. People are continuing to do this.
It is ongoing. After the conference ended, I stayed more connected with the Parks and Trails system. So that's the group that I've been working with, but I'm actually still connected with the other 4 groups, because I was helping with the coordination of the whole event. And we are meeting on the 31st of this month again, so anybody's welcome to come, just to see what's happening. And we're gonna meet at the high school library, so it's Pulteney High School, at 6 p.m., 6 to 7:30 p.m., and that's where we move forward with the ideas.
That's very interesting, and we'll flesh that out a little bit more about how people are sticking with it. Steve, you want to tell us about the Manchester 2020 thing?
Oh, sure. Listening to Jose's story is fabulous because it's, it's just like the Manchester process, but different. Every town obviously does the own thing. I'd say the Manchester 2020 project it's actually pretty exciting. It's pretty good. Ours started, I don't remember quite how long ago, but there was one big massive meeting at Burton High School where the question was asked is, what is the real Manchester? And people went on. And then after a discussion of what is the real Manchester, then they broke into 9 or 10 different little areas where if you were interested in hiking, you could go there. If you were interested in biking, etc. And then there's a couple of different meetings. A month went by, another month went by. And the group, which started, was quite large. It dwindled down a little bit, but it was still amazing how many people showed up in the 150, 120, 100 and some odd. There's a lot of people in the room. And through the process, this Vermont Council on Rural Development process, did you have the little stickers? Yeah,
yes.
Same thing. Through the process, they winnowed down from about 19 or 20 ideas down to 4 that the community spent their chits voting on. And the 4, in terms of Manchester, was one of them was to develop a river walk. There has been an ongoing process of developing a river walk downtown. So the river walk became one of those priorities. The second one was bicycling, make kind of the idea of make Manchester a bicycling center. The other idea was attract higher education, get Green Mountain College to move to Manchester. No, just kidding. Attract. We have a lot of we have certain buildings and certain campuses that are vacant right now that could be an adjunct of a college. And then the fourth was to create an environment for business incubators where someone could incubate either a food hub or incubate or a technology hub. So those 4 things were voted on, and then they broke into 4 different groups, and each group had a chairperson. And some of them have been very active. The bicycling group is rocking and rolling all the time, and the Riverwalk group is rocking and rolling. Now, one of the reasons I know this is that I offered them, we have a 1,600 square foot garage, a 40 by 40 garage attached to the Fresh Market. And I thought it would make a great meeting space for out of the box, you know, meet in the garage, you know, instead of going to the bank boardroom or the high school. So they've been meeting in my garage. So I provide them chairs and you know, except for the night we needed air conditioning, it works pretty well. So I kind of staying tuned with what's going on. People are showing up and people have jobs and they're writing mission statements and they're contacting other people. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's, there's a lot of things that are happening in Manchester that are very positive. There's a lot that I think is very negative. But you know, the whole building of the new roundabout and all of this, I mean, there's a spirit of moving forward. And I think the Manchester 2020 program, I mean, it's as good as we got, and good will come of it. And I think good is coming of it, you know, right away. Will that solve the economic issues of Manchester? I don't know. Bicycling is not known as one of the things that brings a lot of money into an area, although it brings a lot of joy for people. But that's what's going on. That's what's going on in Manchester. At least I do not have any official connection with it, other than as an interested person, and other than someone that tries to facilitate in any small way that I can meetings and whatnot. I volunteered to get on to the incubator group because I have knowledge of starting businesses and stuff, but I have to confess I have not been able to continue. So I'm feeling good that I'm offering them space, you know, while they work. But that's what's going on. That's it.
So, Jim, you've had some Vermont Council on Rural Development forums down here in Bennington, and so how's that working for Bennington?
Well, I can broaden the discussion a little bit because there has been that going on as well as some other things, and I'm really delighted with the little panel we have here today because I have some relationships with all these folks. I mean, my daughter was in Poultney for 4 years, just graduated from Green Mountain College, so I'm familiar with the things that are going on up there. And longer ago than I like to think, I used to be the town planner in Manchester. Yeah, really. I was actually a town planner in Manchester when there was a Riverwalk downtown. Oh. So how about that? That's how long ago that was. It was called the Bicentennial Path.
No kidding.
Yeah, that gives you any clue about
it's getting revitalized. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully a lot better than it was back then too. But no, so I'm delighted to participate in the discussion with these folks. It's very interesting, and to bring some of that into Bennington as well. Bennington did also go through a community planning process with the Council on Rural Development over the past year. Very similar process. A lot of people turned out. Huge event at the Bennington Fire Station to kick things off. A lot of working groups. They formed up and are still working together on things like improving, providing a community center, expanding and enhancing the recreation center, some downtown improvements, downtown parks, a number of things like that. Really kind of specialized, focused projects, community development projects to build on some local assets. At the same time, or subsequent to that, the town worked with the Regional Planning Commission to develop a comprehensive economic development strategy for the town. And so we worked with town officials and business interests and community residents and a whole host of people to really kind of go through the whole process of figuring out what Bennington's strengths are, where there are opportunities for improving things, how can we get to where we want to be. And that was a great process too, and it resulted in a plan and a roadmap for moving the town forward. that included short-term strategies, mid-term strategies, and long-term strategies. I would say, you know, in general, without going into a lot of detail on all of them, because I wouldn't remember all of them, I don't forget. but the focus of that report really is on building on local resources and assets. Really, kind of not looking outside for solutions, but looking within the community for solutions. A lot of the things that Jose was saying that they realized in Pulteney, the things that are really important, because there are tremendous assets here in Bennington, and there's really good people here in Bennington, and we just need to get them all working together and kind of all rowing in the same direction. So, you know, we have a workforce. We got a resident workforce. Well, what can we do to make sure that that workforce is trained and skilled and available to support local businesses and local entrepreneurs? And I won't try to say that entrepreneurial thing.
That's hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah, say that. And I'm not an entrepreneur, so I'm not familiar with it. But you know, so things like that, and you know, housing. You know, one of the things that holds Bennington back, frankly, is the availability of good workforce housing in locations where people want it to be. And just if we're able to develop that, we'd be able to attract more working families into the center of the community. And just by doing that, you're in turn going to be supporting economic redevelopment and revitalization in and around the downtown area. So, you know, just kind of recognizing that all these things really build on each other, and they really all start with local community, local assets. And, you know, a huge one that we talk about, and there's a lot of different aspects of it, is our physical location. You know, that's a huge thing. One is that Bennington is located remarkably close to major population centers and major transportation hubs. And, you know, that's something that, you know, we haven't really taken advantage of to the extent that we really should have. So it's let's look for opportunities for how we can, you know, forge relationships with near neighbors. Let's also look at the fact that, you know, if anybody looks at a map of Bennington County, they see this big green block there, you know. We're in the middle of the Green Mountain National Forest. All of Bennington County is in the Green Mountain National Forest proclamation boundary. There's, you know, that's a tremendous draw in and of itself, and there's tremendous recreational resources out there that people would just absolutely love to take advantage of, both for the quality of life for residents and to attract tourists and new residents to the area. But they're not really well known, well promoted, well advertised, you know. So how can we better take advantage of the fact that we've got great hiking trails, you know, access to beautiful rivers, fishing, roads for biking and trails for hiking, and I mean, it's a phenomenal area, and something that, you know, sometimes, you know, because we're here all the time, I guess we don't really think of it and take advantage of those things like we should. But, you know, I think there are a lot of the initiatives that they're talking about in Manchester, the same types of things that they're talking about in Bennington. And I think, you know, the thing that Mike wanted to get to is, like, you know, we can't just sit around and say, well, I hope somebody comes in and serves us up some solutions. You know, we need to figure those things out ourselves. And I think that's what all these processes that we've all been going through have been, just kind of sitting down with ourselves and saying, okay, you know, what have we got? What are our resources? What are our assets? How can we work together to make things better? You know, one of my favorite examples is, you know, like Pulteney, a real strong interest around here is with local food systems, local food resources. And we've had a couple of forums focusing on that issue, local foods, and extremely well intended. You know, 100 to 150 people at each one of them. And probably, you know, we just sat down and listed off all the groups that are involved in one way or another in local food, setting aside the farmers and things, but, you know, all the farmers markets and the youth agriculture program, and I mean, just right down the list, the Farm to Plate Council. You know, there's you know, a couple dozen really active groups, and a lot of people, you gotta say, God, we'd really like to do this, and somebody else said, we'd really like to do that too. And they're both trying to do it, but they don't have quite enough firepower individually to do those things. So, you know, connecting those local groups and those local people is just a hugely important function, I think, that we can play to try to make these things happen, because none of them are that hard. But to try to do them alone with one or two people is hard. So getting everybody
Trying
together.
to do them with a lot of people is even harder.
Well, yeah, you got to find the right mix.
This is
And trying to do them without money.
yeah, is always hard.
Right,
Well,
and
it's
that's
very hard.
my point with Bennington is, as you know, I want to grow the grand list. I want to grow the grand list on a lot of different levels, because if you keep trying to have this wish list and there's no money, you're going to sit back and wish for it forever. What Bennington needs to do is come up with strategy of how to bring money to Bennington, either through the things that I want to do on Northside Drive, and then have a game plan for filling up the stores of downtown. Because the downtown merchants are going to need a break tax-wise, and the new businesses that have moved in the last couple of months, there's been 3 or 4 of them, they're going to need neighbors for location, location, location to be able to support them to get new foot traffic. We've got the Old Castle Theater down there, which we've been wishing for years.
Wow.
But when they came, we could have used them, 6, 7 years ago, when Bennington was a little bit more hopping downtown. It would have been better for everybody. Just didn't work that way. Now they're there, and now some of the businesses are out. So I think what the Vermont Rural Council, what they did was they made everybody happy and have this wish list, but they didn't sit you down and say, these are great, but what are you going to do to bring money to your towns
Yeah.
and your entities?
Well, I think what impressed us, my group of friends and stuff, when we went to this Manchester 2020, the Vermont Council on Rural Development, when they started it, they brought down with them tourism people, agriculture people, finance people. They brought all of Montpelier. I think we had more people in Manchester than were in Montpelier that particular night. And we looked around and we said, all those people are avenues to money.
Yes.
If we would decide what it is we want, those people know where the money is, because we don't have it. Now, I don't know where they're going to, how that's going to play out, because as I said, I'm not, that intimately connected with it. But I see you have something. Let me shut up.
It's
Yeah.
no, it's interesting that you bring the concern about money being one of the issues, and thinking about it, because throughout the whole Pulley 2020 process, money was the least of our concerns. So people would get caught up and say, we need money. Like, how are we going to develop? So we would, the thing we would always bring us back to reality. We'd be like, we're not there yet. So right now we are at the stage where we're trying to figure out what is it that we want to see get done here, and then we're going to worry about the money. So now we are at the stage where we are thinking about our mission, and then figuring out strategies on how to find the money, on how to get started and implement it. We're also going around different towns based on the projects that got developed, and see what has been done, and figuring out ways that this could be economically sustainable, that we can get it how can we get more people to become our partners? So building partnership, working together, a word that you used a lot, it's something very important in the process. So if we can figure out who our partners can be, then I think that the money will start flowing in. 10 years ago, before Pulley 2020, the Vermont Council for Rural Development had come into Pulley and brought a similar process, and that's where the Downtown Revitalization Committee emerged. And they created this whole plan with 52 pages, which basically outlines a whole list of assets and ideas, and people committed to these things and they stick to it. So the garden club emerged from that, a women's club emerged from this, the stone bridge. Then they started putting flowers down the whole downtown, putting flags, making sure that beautifying the town. So beautification was like the focus. So bringing some sort of energy, good energy into the town, and also making people saying like, okay, the things that the wheels are moving forward. And now with the 2020 process, it was like less focus on money at the beginning, but now we are at the stage where we're gonna start thinking about it. And I think that Vermont, one thing that I've found out throughout this process is that Vermont communities are usually communities that support each other, no matter what part of the state you are at, and that will come. That will come. So first, you need to get the momentum behind the people, get them some action items, and things will start flowing.
And you also had some successful entrepreneurs come and speak about their experiences developing businesses.
Yes. So what happened was, in the process, we visited several towns, and Bellows Falls, which when you talk about Bennington and the history of it, it just reminds me. Bellows Falls is relatively smaller. It's quite smaller, but it's also similar structure. It used to be. It's close to a river. It had a lot of old buildings that they're trying to be restored. and it has been revitalized. They have a theater that they made it into the town hall. So we went to Bellows Fall, Hardwick. So we brought Robert McBride, Steve Ames, and Stacy Adams. She's from Cody, Nebraska. She was our keynote speaker for the conference. And what they did is a whole community built a whole grocery store that they needed a grocery store in Cody, Nebraska. So we started learning about what other people were doing. Not necessarily that we're gonna do it in Pulney, but it just brought some inspiration, to the town.
Trust me, I'm not putting Pulteney down or anything in this next statement, but you're at phase one. We've done that, Jimmy, a couple of years ago with all the different studies, the 2010 study we had with Bob Madison and the Cavendish report and everything else. And I think what the whole things are missing is you can be very excited about that, but you cannot ignore the next step. You have to be working on the money angle of it, or your first step gets totally dissolved and people lose interest because they find out we've done all of this stuff and now it's coming down to the next step, which is taxation, property taxes, employment, school. Do you have your own, how do you Pulteney with the school? What's the school system up there? Do you pay school property taxes? Do you have your own little elementary school?
Yes, we do have our own elementary school, our own high school, and yet the taxes, the
But
town.
as the school costs in Bennington have gone up, our taxes have gone up too. And it's just a matter of, if you have the wherefore in a town, like Manchester's more like Bennington, you can graze the grand list on the back of, and a few years ago, you had it with all the development downtown with the big business, the commercial businesses. That helped pay for a lot of your taxes and took it off the residential. What I'm finding now in Bennington as we're not growing business-wise. It's putting the burden more on the residential, and again, going back to Bennington, our residential population is getting older. We're not keeping the youth in Vermont or in Bennington. We're not getting the new people to invest in our community. The older ones have retired, their money's getting shorter because of the cost of living, the cost of taxes, the cost of everything. So this is where, to me, it's kind of, in Bennington again, not Manchester or Pulteney, it's kind of losing it and breaking up because we haven't kept pace with the financial part of it.
But here's an idea, an entrepreneurial idea. So what's happening in Pulteney is that, you can still create your own nonprofit organization, and through that you can apply for grants. The money is out there.
I know, but there's, again, I don't need to be turned this into an argument. There's the problem in Bennington. Everything is nonprofit. We have more nonprofits than Jimmy Sullivan could sit there and count. You can't do everything on nonprofit. You have to have entrepreneurialism to bring in jobs, people to pay for their own way and everything else.
Well, Steve, you started a business that was a vision of yours, a decade ago or
Well,
more.
yeah.
Why don't you tell us about what
Well,
it involves?
Well, let me just, from an entrepreneur standpoint, remember, and you're all familiar with, Transition Town Manchester, Transition Town Bennington. Remember that whole movement? And then remember the creative economy thing. That was all. And then came the Manchester 2020 thing. Well, somewhere in between the Transition Town and the new economy and the Manchester 2020, I've gone to every one of those meetings, and I'm going to these meetings and I'm seeing hands go up saying, what we wish we could have is a farmer's market open all the time. We wish we could have healthy food all the time, not just Tuesday afternoon from 3 to 6. Next hand, we wish we had that. So over and over again, you hear that at every meeting, you hear people ask for the same thing. Steve is an entrepreneur. Steve is sitting there and Steve is saying, should make that.
Yes.
I mean, everybody wants it. We should make it. So, that idea kind of just sits there and sits there. And then, as they say on the news sometimes, in an unrelated incident, I had a building that I was using and still am using as, well, it's the annex where we have these meetings, but it's a 1,600 square foot garage that I use as a landscaping garage. And I love it. And so the owner of that building, I said to him, I want to lease it. He said, sure, month-to-month basis, I'll make a good deal. I said, no, I want it on a long-term basis. So he says to me, well, the only way you get it on a long-term basis is you have to rent the gas station.
Yeah.
What the hell do I want a gas station for? So, but there's this idea of, from a community meeting, I want a place to buy food 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whatever. I want to buy farm-to-table foods all the time. So not being the smartest guy, but being smart enough, I start connecting the dots, and I say the gas station, that should be not a auto repair shop, because who needs that? That should be the farmer's market that's open 7 days a week, 10, 11 hours a day. And so the community meeting that surfaced the community need as an entrepreneur, because I like that, as an entrepreneur, I've taken that community need and decided to solve it from a private enterprise standpoint. I'm a tax-paying business. And yes, I did, by the way, win a grant from the state of Vermont for something that has to do with food. But basically, we finance the things ourselves out of sales. So what I'm saying is you got to be careful when you go to these Manchester 2020, because there's ideas for an entrepreneur to latch onto, and then the next thing you know, you're working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, trying to make it work.
You've just made my point.
I know I have.
You made my point. I hope everybody here understands it. You made my point.
That's right.
We here want a food co-op.
Right.
And nobody's against it.
Right.
But they went out, the food co-op that's starting and still trying to get it going, went out and they had to get a $350,000 grant, calling us a food desert. They didn't get that. They didn't get the money. Now we don't have a food co-op. What I'm saying is exactly what you just said. Somebody in this community should step up to the plate as an entrepreneur and say, there is this big cry out there.
Yeah, let me just add a couple things to the conversation too. You know, you talk about needing money, and there's more ways and complex ways for wealth to come into a community. You talk first about increasing the grand list, which is well and good. Your community can try to do that by providing the necessary infrastructure, making sure the regulatory environment is good. You know, putting those types of pieces in place so those things can happen. And frankly, I think Bennington has done a good job of that. You know, the other thing you can do is, instead of focusing on building the grand list, starting out with a focus on jobs and providing good and better jobs and more income for people and more wealth in the community that'll create a demand for more of the types of facilities and buildings that'll expand the grand list. You know, and then we always talk about grants, the amazing grant funding that's going to come in. Well, I don't want to poo-poo grants. We spend a lot of the time at our regional planning commission applying for grants of one form or another. But Vermont's a small state and doesn't have a huge amount of money. And you know, the federal government is
running out of money.
Ran out of money a long time ago. But not that that's preventing them from printing more of it. Yeah. But you know, we got to realize, that big check coming in isn't going to solve the problem. We can get some little grants that'll help people, do some things that they'd like to do anyway, and those are really good things. But kind of going back to the main point, and what Steve has done is say, you get an idea, you commit to it, you get people together to work on it, and you make it happen, and that's what really moves the community forward. And having the vision and having a roadmap to get there, it generates those ideas, it generates those relationships, and I think that can build those types of opportunities and those types of jobs, and then those types of buildings, and then it's a momentum thing. You get to a certain critical mass, and more stuff kind of gets drawn in. I always say that downtown Bennington is it kind of, I use a gravity example. If it gets big enough and enough businesses come in there, it'll just start attracting more things in itself. And then when the business activity level drops below a certain critical point, that gravitational attraction isn't there, and it doesn't pull more businesses in. So it's a matter of like continuing that momentum and continuing to build energy so that things will just organically want to come in.
So I have a question. I only learned about this 2020 stuff a month or two ago. And one of the things that I used to do was, I was an entrepreneur and I made products. I made garden furniture out of copper plumbing fittings. I made wooden purses out of wood, using Vermont natural resources. I made teddy bears. I was a seamstress. And so these ideas would seem to also, especially for Bennington, lend themselves to manufacturing. Or is manufacturing dead? Or is there a role for creating jobs that actually are the old type, if not the old type, but using our hands
Well, it
to
goes
make
back to the
things.
small, what Steve's talking about, or what I'm talking about, and Steve had an example of it. Small entrepreneurism in manufacturing, I think, can still be encouraged, and that's what we've got to do. We can't look for IBM to stay here forever. They just laid off 400 people. Vermont is unique, I believe, that Steve's type things can happen. With Bennington, I was talking to my lawyer. Paul called me today. He's really a good friend. He's not, I shouldn't refer to him as my lawyer. And we hadn't talked in a while, so he called me up this morning, and I says, well, now that you're on the phone, I want to pick your brain legally. And I says, what about this downtown Bennington? We have a lot of vacant stores. A lot of it is excused because the rents are too high. What can we do to make these landlords, what is their benefit? And he says, well, there's nothing you can really do to tax them or anything like that. He says what you could do and should do is have your select board or whatever get the group that wants to do these and contact these landlords and say, would you lower your rent to a certain point, and we'll give you basically what they gave the golf course, which is tax break or tax stabilization package for a long period of time. And I said, so all of that's legal? He says, oh, absolutely, you can do that. So if there's a big, nice parcel in downtown, and you hook up somebody like Steve that has an idea, blah, 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 you get the two together, and you say to the landlord, look, you're paying umpteen thousand a year. What if you only pay this? If you reduce the rent a bit to give this entity an opportunity to go. That's the type of things that I'm talking Bennington, that I think Bennington needs to do for the downtown. You need to get people seriously talking to get downtown revived, because if not, Harvey York, who used to be the CEO of the hospital, said years ago at one of these many meetings I'm sure you were at and I was at, you're getting the swinging door effect, where you get so many businesses in, and they find out, geez, they can't last in downtown, so then they leave, and then back and leave, and you only have a certain amount. I think you need to get key stores for downtown that are going to bring people to downtown every day, once or twice a week maybe, but something like you just said with a co-op. I wasn't against the co-op in Bennington. I was against the way they were trying to get it financed, because it would have hurt the Spice and Nice store, and it would have hurt the South Street Cafe. And it would have been hurt all on taxpayer dollars. $350,000 to be dumped into something. I don't think that's the right way to do it.
That sounds like an awful lot of money. I just had a thought here. The Poultney 2020 project, you through it, ideas came up. That it was actually, I mean, yes, it was community, whatever. It was market research. The people in your community, the people in my community, this is pure market research. People raising their hands and saying, we want bicycling. Okay, so the normal kind of way we do it is the community gets all together and stuff like that, and starts working on it, and they fight to try to figure out where they can find money and little grants and this and that. Another thought. If you took that pure market research and spent whatever dollars were available on marketing that market research, and let me just go back here. Why don't more people want to live in Vermont? This is the greatest place going.
Yes, it is.
I mean, this is the best place going. The Green Mountains, the this, the that.
Yes.
Now, put that aside. Baby boomers are retiring at an ever accelerating rate, and retiring with more money than people have ever retired with in their lives. Those people exposed to the market research that we've done that says Bennington wants a food co-op. You know, all these people want it. There is no food. Brattleboro has one. Poultney has one.
Rutland has one.
South Burlington has one.
So you go to that market, and ask the question, wouldn't you like to have a business in Vermont where you can ski, where you can bike, where you can hike, where you can canoe, where your kids can go to school without, you know, this and that? I mean, I think there's a market. See, I always think this. I think there's a marketing job to be done that's not being done. Now, I'm not a baby boomer. I'm at the very leading edge of it. I'm kind of a little bit older than that. But I lived in New York, and I made good money, and I retired, and I moved to Vermont not to retire to play golf, but to do things I love, a landscaping business and now this farmer's market business. So I'm the audience, but I came here of my own volition because I went to college here and I have friends here, but there are other people who couldn't be enticed to come here because of a business case that's been done in Pulteney, in Manchester, in Bennington. This is not, oh, we think it would be a great idea to have a bake shop.
Yeah.
No, we have numbers of people who have voted for this. You know,
And they
I'm
would
saying
support it.
it's like that, I think, is maybe the way to solve the problem of how do you get some jobs going, how do you get things happening without thinking about public money, grants, by finding a way to involve entrepreneurs with some cash, entrepreneurs who have some cash or who know how to find the cash.
We're saying the same thing.
We're saying the same thing.
Either you do it from the outside, bring people in like you came back to Vermont, or I'm saying if there's anybody in here in Vermont or in Bennington or Manchester or Pulteney that would help step up to the plate, because like Jimmy knows that these grants come and go.
Yeah.
Our school system just got nailed, be it Bennington BSD. They took grant money for stuff 3 years ago, $3 or $4 million under the Arrow money, got everybody used to what that money would give the education department, and then guess what? It's gone. So we had a 19% budget this year increase. It got shut down. Got down to 13%. It got shut down. 9% it finally passed. But next year, if they bring it up at 9%, I can't believe anybody's going to pass it. They're going to say no. So what I'm saying when I say money is you have to look at the whole picture. It isn't just bike paths and all the rah-rah stuff. It's how are you going to bring people in with families or elderly, you know, baby boomers that are retired that are going to be comfortable living in Vermont so they don't see everything they got going out to taxes.
Yeah, Mike, and you know, that kind of gets to, you know, Jose's position in sustainable communities, because you can't do things that are short term without a plan for making them long term and to sustain themselves. So I think that the term sustainability maybe gets a little bit overused, but it is really it's a key concept. It's very important, and you know, I think that getting people to come to Vermont to recognize what a great quality of life we have and to invest in the state and our communities is really good. And I agree with Mike too. There's probably an awful lot of people here who could be entrepreneurial like you and you know, start manufacturing, start the local businesses that use local resources and local people and can really be successful. And you know, to your question about manufacturing, which I think is, you know, very important for a place like Bennington, which has a long history as a manufacturing center, but you know, saw a significant decline in manufacturing jobs, you know, from the middle part of the 20th century to the end of the 20th century. Is starting to see an uptick again, and there is definitely a place for manufacturing, and I think a growing one. You know, Bennington has a very strong carbon composites sector, but there's also a number of other support businesses and industries around that and independently, and I really believe that you know, over time we're going to have to relearn how to make stuff ourselves.
Right.
Yes.
I do too.
You know, I don't believe that 50 years from now we're going to be getting most of our stuff from China. I really don't. It's just going to be too expensive. It's going to be too complicated. So I think that recognizing that we have that manufacturing base and building on it and seeing what our local resources are, making sure that we have a good trained workforce that can work in manufacturing and can learn new skills is absolutely critical.
But I also think that you got to be realistic in that first phrase, like you said, 50 years. I don't think any one of us may be here at 50 years. Maybe you'll
Jose will.
Yeah,
Jose will.
but
You're just a little whippersnapper and you'll be here. But the rest of us might be either in the nursing home or gone. So what I'm concentrating on is for Bennington is the next couple of years. What can we do to get this going? And Jose is a perfect example of what we're kind of a couple of years ahead of. We've done what you've done in Pulteney, and it's important to do it. But I'm at the next stage, almost where Manchester is. You've been around the block a few times in Manchester too, to where you said you had the bike path. Now you're putting it back, the walkway. Or
The
whatever,
walkway. Yeah.
And
The
my
river
question would be, why did it ever leave? If it was there when Jimmy was there, when you left the job, did you not sweep it, or what was the deal? You know, I mean, why did it
There's
go?
there's a long story behind that. We can do that
Okay,
another
but-
time. But
Yeah.
but let me say something, because I do want you want to say something that we can do in Bennington in the next couple of years. So we've got Jose here, which I think is fortuitous, because one of the things I think Bennington can do in the next couple of years is recognize that it's a college town. Poultney has an awful lot of energy because Green Mountain College is right at the end
It's
of
right
Main
there,
Street.
Yes.
yeah.
You know, Bennington has a lot more college students than Poultney does.
Exactly.
You know, we've got Bennington College, we got
Youth.
Southern Vermont College, we got the Community College
Right.
of Vermont, we got
But are they integrated into the
Vermont
community?
Technical College programs. We've
Yeah.
got a new Northeast Baptist College coming
Wow.
into the community. You would not know
Right.
that Bennington was a
You would
college
not
town
know.
for life you walking around
No.
town. So, I mean, any ideas, any thoughts? We've started to reach out and work with the colleges to try to bring that
You
energy
got to have a
into the town.
cappuccino store. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah,
that's
correct.
the first thing.
Well,
Every
but-
college town.
I mean, I don't, I mean, it all started, the idea of 2020 started at the college, but it became a town idea, right? So, you know, the idea of having a cappuccino store, that's something that, you know, that you wanna see. But you also have to, you know, feed yourself out of the youth, you know, and the things that exist around you, because youth do bring a lot of life into a room. When you see a lot of young people, you know, presenting their ideas, you will see, you know, all the people that have been around the block, as you would say, they lighten up and they say, like, we want to do this, we want to see this happening. And actually it's very interesting. I'm interested in your market because I met some of the people that are bringing their products into your market, and you know, you're bringing community into there. It's not just something, you know, that you've created just for yourself, but it's actually, because I've learned in my walks just talking to people, that they, you know, that they are able to build some of their arts and crafts and some stuff and being able to sell. Is that correct? Yeah, right. So, you know, you're also empowering the skills of the already existing resources in the town. The biggest resource that you can have in a town is people. And, you know, and people are the ones that are going to make, you know, start making that change. So if you start, you know, just seeking, I didn't know you have so many colleges, but if you do, you know, figure out, you know, what are the skills that, you know, this students are being trained for, what are the students trying to do, and then encourage them to, you know, to use open spaces, to build these areas. You know, they want a cappuccino shop, you know, maybe it can come out, it can emerge from there. You know, the colleges need to also invest in the towns where they are located, because it cannot be just a one-way thing. Another reason that you mentioned, that you highlighted at the beginning of the conversation, is that this is a spot, you know, a traveling spot for many different towns. The same with Poultney, but if you have it just right there, if you're just the center spot, what can bring, you know, all those tourists into the downtown? So figure that one thing and focus on one thing that will make the town, you know, flourish. You know, even little simple things that can get the ball rolling, like a mural in town. Like a small mural in town can get people, you know, create perception. It's all about perception. Putting flowers on the green, you know, things like that will start, you know, making people starting to question and saying,
I just hate to burst your bubble, but we've done all of that. We've had Moose Fest, we've had Catamount Fest, we got flowers coming out of our ears in downtown that we pay for out of tax dollars. I love your enthusiasm, and I know it will work differently in Poultney, because Poultney is a different political makeup, maybe, college makeup, than Bennington. Bennington has its own unique stumbling blocks that if they're not there, we seem to throw them in front of ourselves.
Well, how do you bring the communities into the college community into the discussion?
Well, you know, I think that's a good question. I think it's interestingly, I think that the colleges would like to be more involved in the community. I think that Bennington College and Southern Vermont College are both located on beautiful campuses on their hills outside of town, and they've kind of been self-centered out there.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, a lot of ideas that people are talking about is having some, you know, maybe college-owned or operated stores downtown and performance venues. So, you know, Bennington College probably has 20, 30 great bands, you know, on campus. It's a really artistic place, a place to have student art exhibits, a place for kids to come into town. I mean, I think those are all, you know, really good and really important ideas. Better transportation options, things
What's
like that.
so terrific about it is that one of the Manchester 2020 goals is to bring higher education to Manchester. Why? Because people want to have some youth. Manchester's an old town. And so they figured if they could have a college, they could have young people. If they have young people, they'll have the vitality. We could have a cappuccino store, and you know. But it's a. I mean, I never thought of it, but maybe the way, after all these years of doing it this way, and it doesn't work, maybe the next way to do it is what you just talked about, getting the colleges to make the future of Bennington.
And we've
like
But that's been
Green
tried
Mountain.
too, hasn't it, Jim? No, be honest.
Well,
Yeah,
I
but
don't
it
think
wasn't
that,
tried the same way.
I don't
mean,
think people have been very aggressive about it. And you know, even like what we've done
It's
in
really
our
interesting.
organization, we've really started reaching out through internship programs to the
Yes.
colleges. We have a Green Mountain College intern now, by the way. But you know, we had 3 Bennington College interns working at our office, and that made a big difference. Now we have a Southern Vermont College student too. So you know, just bringing them into the community to work in the community, to get experience in some of the businesses and operations in the community, you know, it brings them into town, and it engages them in what's going on.
And also, I think colleges need to see, you know, it's beyond just the gates of a college. You know, where you started, like they should start envisioning Bennington as a bigger lab. You know, a lab where they can really explore ideas and you know and maybe see them be implemented. You know, this started, you know, and when I talk about little murals and you know little things that you say it's been tried and done, our co-op in Poultney was actually a grassroots movement in order to build that co-op. They allowed us to make a small mural on their side of the co-op, and 3 college students wanted to do it, and also a high school student. So in my role as outreach coordinator, I brought the high school student, I brought the three college students together. So then we have 4. I brought them into the Poultney Area Artists Guild, and they said, okay, we're gonna come up with the design. And then we went to we knocked on doors, and then they said, we're gonna give you, you know, the painting, like the Loomis paint. They said, we're gonna give you all the painting. The hardware store supported us, so it became all in community. And then the kids put the mural out there, and now when you see people, they walk and they stare. So something is happening here. You know, there's the Journal Press building. We attracted artists. So that whole building, we have 7 artists already there. We have a professional sculptor, internationally known. We have a famous painter, you know, who was a faculty emeritus from Green Mountain College now in that same building. We have a professional frame worker who also does huge murals. I don't know if you've ever been by Paulette, Matt Salon, who made like a huge Barack Obama. He's in Poultney now. We have an alternative education school in that same building. So you know what is it that you can do to attract, you know, these people? You know, it could be just one thing that the town can say, okay, we're gonna commit to this project and we're gonna stick to it, and then you know you're gonna start seeing people, you know, just you know.
What kind of a government do you have in Poultney?
We don't, you know, we have a town manager, and then
Select board.
and select board, yes.
And does your town manager and select board come to these meetings?
Actually, yes. Our town manager has been to all the meetings, and you know, and he's an amazing guy. He's been our town manager for over 20 years now, so that's you know, he knows the history of the town. And then he was the kind of person to be like, we've done that, we tried that, we've done that, we tried that, and we always say, Jonas, no, you know, I know we've tried it, but we don't want to talk about it. We're moving forward with this. So you know, and every time, you know, we say like we want a skateboarding park. We've done it. There's no permit. And it was like no, you know. So
See, we need you here to talk to Bethel, because he's our curmudgeon.
so we
See.
were.
Now, wait a minute, are you ranking me or are you ranking Jose? It isn't me that says no to things, Jim.
No, but that, you know, that's the thing, you know. And Jonas, you know, because he's seen it, you know, because Poultney, this is the first time that I am seeing the process, because I graduated, you know, 2-3 years ago, and that I've been directly involved. But this had to happen 10 years ago, and probably happened 10 years before.
But what I'm trying to say is, I think you have a willingness of your government now, with your town manager and/or your select board, to let these things happen and help them happen. With us, I still find that we get the no instantly and find 10 different reasons why somebody
I don't know.
can't.
I don't think that's fair. I think that our town government and our select board, especially lately, has been really quite progressive and quite proactive in a lot of things. And I mean, they you know, a lot of the initiatives that have been identified in the community, in the economic development plan for Bennington, they're solidly behind, and they're supporting. So I'm very hopeful, you know, and I think that there's a lot of positive energy in the community.
Do you think we should have a mandatory form of government, or do you think we should have a manager in Bennington?
It's a question of whether you or I should be the mayor.
Well, either one I think would be better than what we got. Let's put it that way. Flip a coin.
Do you
But
guys have a mayor? Or
no, we have
No,
a town
town
manager. And he's a
manager,
great guy.
so,
It's
yeah.
nothing against Stuart. This is probably
So I want to ask Steve, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? I mean, a lot of people sit back and say, let somebody else do it. So you're an entrepreneur.
My
What does
glib
it take?
answer was, it takes insanity.
Right.
Well,
But
yeah.
a more thorough answer is that what it takes to be an entrepreneur is grabbing hold of an idea and just not letting it not happen, no matter what. I mean, what happens is making it work. I want to do it. I want my landscaping business to be this. It's not working this way. Let it be this. This is how I organize my crew. It's not working. Let's try it this way. There is no no is not an answer. You know, we're doing very well. My landscaping business, it's been around almost 13 years. It makes money. It does well. The fresh market is a whole brand new concept. Brand new concepts cost a lot of money
It's
to
a
make.
risk.
It's a big risk.
So what causes you to be willing to take that risk?
Because it's a good idea and it should work. In terms of the fresh market, there's a social reason why it should work.
Yeah.
The social reason is that if our fresh market, which is essentially like a farmer's market but open all the time, the farmers don't have to stand there all day long and sell.
Right.
What they can do is they can grow their stuff, give it to me, go home and play with their
Right.
kids
I
or
have
whatever.
excess eggs.
Take the
Automatic
eggs.
market.
I mean,
Right.
okay, for the consumer, they don't have to go, let's see, Thursday afternoon, oh, it's 7 o'clock, I missed the farmer's market. They can, 7 o'clock, they can just go and get. So I believe in the farm to table process. I like to know where my food comes from. I eat very well because I've always known, since when I started living in Vermont, where my food's coming from. I want everybody, frankly, to be able to do that. And my fresh market is a way to accomplish that. And I'm not taking no for an
Well,
answer.
here's an idea for you. If you're so successful in Manchester, which sounds like you are, what would you think about coming to Bennington and helping these people out get one going here?
Well, I would certainly help these people. I don't want to have anything to do with it financially.
Okay, but would
of
you,
course I'm
would you
available.
help them find a way to
Sure,
get
why
the
not?
revenue
Yes,
to
I
do
would
it?
do that.
And
Of
do it
course I could.
somewhere
So
in
did you
downtown?
do a business plan?
For the fresh market, yes, I did a business plan. We did projections.
Because a lot of people put a lot of focus
Well,
into writing
well,
a business plan. and-
It's writing a business plan is really critical. I have, sounds like I have a similar situation. I have a gentleman who used to be my lawyer. He's no longer my lawyer. He's been a friend for 55 years. And I don't do anything without a conversation. He always will say to me, well, let's see your business plan. And I will say things like, I don't have time to get that
Right.
done. And he said, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you're crazy. But you can make a business plan. By the way, the state of Vermont will make the business plan for you for free.
Who does that?
I get help from Rutland and Bennington from a guy named Brian DeClue.
In the Small Business Development.
Small Business Development Center.
So it's a federal
Brian will
program,
come
yeah.
to my office. He will sit right here. He will have a spreadsheet in front. He will ask me to make assumptions. I will make assumptions. He will go home, and 3 days later, there'll be a financial plan. It's unbelievable. It's for free,
Wow.
and he's a nice guy. And so, for the fresh market, we did a business plan, and of course, the business plan showed that we would get X amount of revenue, we would spend so and so and so and so. Would that it were true? We found out, in terms of the fresh market, getting supply from local farmers is a lot harder than to say. You don't have enough eggs.
You get them when the
Yeah,
other
get them
store
when I
does-
get them.
yeah,
I don't
them
have
when you
enough
get 'em,
eggs.
right.
Where's the eggs? This is not Annette. Where's the eggs that we're supposed to get? Well, my sister-in-law's brother was sick, and I had to go take care of his kid. I can't bring you eggs today.
Right.
Meanwhile, Mrs. Smith is coming in saying, "I need eggs, and I don't want to go to the supermarket." So and then of course there's the issue in Manchester, which absolutely has blown me away, that if there is not prime ski season, or there's not July 4th weekend, there's nobody there.
Town's dead, yeah.
The place is dead as
Yeah.
a doornail.
Yeah.
And I had no idea, because I have, for 13 years, a contracting business that relies on people who basically live there. So I got into this business, which is very much affected by tourism, and you know something? It ain't there. We're amazed.
It used to be there, though, wasn't it?
It used to be,
I'm
maybe.
surprised.
Well, outlet shopping was a big deal. It's not anymore. Who needs it? And other than one outlet operator, the man that everybody loves to hate, but he's a fabulous guy in terms of business, Ben Halbin, knows how to run an outlet business. He's filled. All the rest of the places are empty.
Yeah.
And so what else do people come to Manchester for? During ski season, it's the only game in town.
The
The
bookstore.
Best bookstore. in
Yeah.
The best
The
bookstore.
best bookstore, but how many people can they attract?
I've always seen that bookstore packed.
But you want to know something? Tourism dead in Manchester or whatever. Maybe it's not dead. Maybe that's an overstatement. I don't care. I'll find a way, and that's what makes the entrepreneur. I will find a way. I will become, if I have to, in order to generate the amount of volume that I need in the fresh market, and I can't do it farm to table products only, I'll become a mini grocery store. I don't really care, as long as I can find a way to be sustainable and to still have a place where I can sell your eggs, his chickens, his organic beef, his vegetables, whatever. So I think that's what it takes. You just don't say no.
And you don't be afraid to fail.
Yes.
Because a lot of businesses do fail, and that's not really a black
Yeah.
mark on the person trying.
The financial thing is really big. It's really big. I could not be doing what I'm doing had I not had another career and had some savings. So you need to have capital.
Yep.
But most of my capital comes from my customers because I sell them stuff.
Yeah.
You know, right now, my fresh market, we're developing a food program, a takeout food program. It cost me money to develop the takeout food program. I'm selling landscaping harder than I ever sold landscaping before, because that's my source of capital. So that's not money I brought to Vermont. It's money that I'm getting every day. I have to find a way. I don't care what it takes. I have to find a way. Otherwise, I don't get to play.
Yep.
Well, we got about an hour here, so we got to wrap this up. But I really
Thanks for
appreciate
that. It's
everybody,
fun to talk
the
about that.
enthusiasm. But I am going to work on. Me and you talked about it one time. We canceled it because of the earlier this year. But I'd like to do a discussion like this, bring in some more people, and do it maybe at the firehouse or something, and spur on what you've said and what you've said and what we've said here, and see if we can't get people to come out and think about being entrepreneurs.
With their ideas.
With their ideas.
Maybe some people with their money.
Use the
Yes.
small business, yes, use the small business individual that you're talking about, and maybe towards the end of August, maybe beginning of September in Bennington, and that people can come from Manchester, holding whatever they want, because it's not just a Bennington problem. I think it's a Vermont problem for the small towns.
What I want to say too, you know, as we were driving into Bennington, I told Annette that this was a beautiful town, and I said I would move here in a heartbeat, you know. So I saw the beauty in this town, you know, and maybe because people have been here for so long that they cannot identify it. As soon as I moved in, I said this town is beautiful. It has, if you say it has 16 to 17,000 people, it has more than Pulteney. And for young people like me, we want to see people. We want to see people around. We want and we want opportunities as well. And if you have all these colleges, let's get them involved as well. So
Bennington's beautiful, and I don't mean Jimmy and
know.
I aren't saying it isn't beautiful. It's just that we just need that one step up to get it back to where it used to be.
We don't call them, and Pulteney right now we're not calling them entrepreneurs. We're calling them maniacs. But you need those maniacs in here.
Yes, you do.
You know, so you need those maniacs.
Sullivan and I have called each other maniacs many times, so we're here. But
so
we do have to wrap it up, because
Yeah.
we've got to get an hour in. But I want to thank everybody for joining us. The discussion was great. Thank you, and we'll be back again on the Bennington Tonite Show.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. And
Thank
it's
you.
fun. It's
Thank
fun
you.
to have
Do it
this
again.
talk. And there's some good ideas here.
Thank you, folks. We'll talk to you.